Welcome to the Not Superheroes Gets Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundation for our families, be present for our kids, and come back generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as fathers to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I'm Sean Laurie. Hope you guys are doing great today. Man, the weather here it's been so. I guess that's Texas weather for you, though. It's 1 minute is cold, 1 minute is hot. But with that being said, make sure you guys make sure you guys subscribe, share, tell a friend. I appreciate the support, like always. Now, I want to dive into something, guys, that really is interesting to me. So, I'm sure many of you guys are into sports, right? And with basketball, and even if you're not into basketball, with LeBron James, right, with his son, and then John Morant played for Memphis Grizzlies, if you don't know who John Morant is, but his dad and things like that. Not to necessarily talk directly about them, but it made me think, is it a bad thing for us as fathers to be too involved, right? Like that's something that had me, wondering, because I see online, I see some of the pushback. Some people make good points on one side, the other side might make good points. So it had me curious, right? Well, one, I guess, like, what does being a involved parent like mean to most of us, right? I'm sure it means being present, right? Being there for those baseball games, basketball games, being supportive, right? Helping them with their homework, helping them be able to deal with real life situations, right? And then it's like, okay, what is quote unquote a too involved parent, right? At least for me, it's like, hey, won't let your child live their life, or make mistakes, or be to handle certain adversity. And so that's why I was wondering with the first of all, we'll start off with John Morant. I think his dad's name is T Morant, right? And so John Morant, if y'all didn't know, he got in trouble, like, was it a year or two ago, whatever, for having a gun online and things like that, right? Flashing it on Instagram and things like that, and got in trouble from the NBA because at the end of the day, he is supposed to be one of the stars, one of the upcomers of the league, and there's kids watching, right? And so at the end of the day, it's like, what type of influence are you going to have on the next generation if that's what you're portraying, if that's what you're trying to be? And so he got in trouble for it, right? And I've seen it before where people get on John Morant's dad, right? Like, hey, how could you let your son do this? Why is your son, doing this? You need to talk to him. And I've always said, one, we don't know what the dynamic with the relationship is. Maybe, he has talked to John Morant, right? But he's also letting him live his life. Or maybe that's just the environment that they grew up in, right? So certain things and behaviors he got from his dad, right? And who are we to tell, him, this is how you should parent your son, this is how you should act, towards your son. He needs to act accordingly. Of course, we will hope, right, as a father, you're helping your son make smart decisions and things like that. But I also look at it like, many of us, as men, we're just giant kids. Let's be honest, right? A lot of us still haven't grown up. A lot of us, is grown, got bills, got a family, but we still want to run the streets, right? We're still doing whatever it is. We still want to live a certain type of life instead of understanding, hey, okay, that was then, this is now. This is what I need to do now for my family. This is what I need to do now for me. To each his own, right? Because I'm not here to try to criticize anyone. If that's the life you want to live, that's the life you want to live. But not even just men in general. As adults, many of us as adults, we're just giant kids. That's just what it is. We're just giant kids. And so that's how I kind of look at it, is like, we don't know the dynamic of John Moran and his dad's relationship. So what if his dad's saying, yeah, do that, son, right? Keep being you. Keep, hey, you want to be on IG Live with with strippers, or you want to, flash your gun, or you want, man, hey, yeah, you made it, son. You made it to top. They can't tell you nothing, right? Maybe, I don't know. I have no clue. I'm not in that place with it, right? And it's just interesting though, because again, like, obviously him and his dad are close, and that could be a good thing or bad thing. Sometimes it's viewed as a bad thing. Like, I remember with LeVar Ball, right? LeVar Ball, they criticized him a lot because what he said with his son, right? And all he did, right, was just basically believe in his kids. He goes, hey, yeah, my son will be better than Jordan, or whatever, right? He'll be the next big star, right? My son's going to be, the number one pick, top pick. My son's going to go to the Lakers, which he was right. He said Lonzo Ball would go to Lakers. He went to Lakers. He said LaMelo Ball didn't know need to go to college and would be a top pick. He was a top pick, right? His other son, even though I personally didn't agree, his middle son, because I said at the time was he needed to be in school a little bit longer. LeVar Ball disagreed. Obviously, it didn't work out, but he's doing music now, which is a great thing, right? But I just remember all the pushback, right? And it's always so divided instead of, hey, you know what, this dude is evolved as a dad. That's awesome. I might not agree with certain things, but that's awesome. And I hate, though, I see it online, I see it all the time. It's like, if you don't agree with a method or something, all of a sudden you're trying to say this person is a bad dad, right? So I say that, for example, because when LeVar Ball was talking about his boys, I watched them. I was like, yeah, Lonzo's the real deal, right? And I still believe he would have been super nice if it wasn't for his injury. I thought LaMelo was nice, right? But I remember I said Jello, the middle son, was not, a top pick, right? He wasn't even a second round pick to me. Like, he needs to get much better. But I remember at the time, especially when Big Baller Brand and all that stuff, right, the way he was like, oh man, you don't, you don't support black fathers, and you're against anyone that's a good father. It's like, no, that's not the case at all, right? And I think sometimes it gets merged, instead of understanding not everything has to be black or white, right? Um, so that's just interesting to me, is like how, and maybe that might be because of our personal experience, right? Because if some of us didn't grow up with a dad, right, we look at LeBron, we look at LeVar, T Morant, right, Ja Morant's dad, we look at them and say, man, I wish I had a dad like that, right? So we're taking our own personal experience and we're actually taking it out on everyone else. What do you mean you don't agree with, no, he should be able to do this, he should be able to do that. No, the dad is just is being supportive. Yes, they are being supportive, but maybe there's certain dynamics, right? Again, I'm not even trying to pick on them three, because at the end of the day, all those fathers did their job, right? I know people gave Bron a hard time, but again, if you had the opportunity to get your son drafted, of course you would do the same, right? I didn't knock Bron for that. I was more so just worried about Bron not being able to have his own identity as a player, because everything had to be attached to Bron, right? And so that was my issue, was like, everything Bronny does has to be attached to his dad. It can't just be him. And so in that, will his identity be strictly connected with his dad, which is unfair to him? I don't think we realize that, right? When we're trying to push our kids to do a certain thing, right? And, oh, well, dad was a good basketball player. Dad was a good football player. Dad was a good baseball player. And they do that same sport, automatically they're going to be compared, right? Especially if you was great at it. Now you're being unfairly compared. Everything you're doing is, oh, well, your dad did this, your dad did that. Or maybe your dad felt short in that, and now he's trying to live through you. Oh, yeah, my son's playing football. He's real good at football. So, shoot, I'm going to be playing. You would think I played football too. Because, a matter of fact, I'm wearing the gear sometimes. Like, wait, well, hold on. Your dad not even play, right? So it's just, it's a tricky dynamic at times, right? Because again, we put our own personal experience with what we see going on with these celebrities, with these athletes, or whatever the case is. But yeah, Brian obviously isn't the first, person to help his son get a job, right? We see it in the corporate world, right? We see it where the CEO gets their son to be the supervisor and has zero experience, right? And is able to move up quicker than the next person, or have their daughter do it and move up than the next person, right? So we've seen it. This is nothing new at all. Um, it's been happening, but it's just, I don't know. It's just very interesting to me. Like I said, it's just the fact that um, we get deemed for being too involved, and then it's like, okay, we want them involved but not too involved, or you can help them but not help them. It's I guess it's like a thin line, right? It's a thin line you're playing with, because at the end of the day, we don't really hear too much pushback when it comes to um, mothers being too involved, right? Like, we know, for example, we know for sure that Jaden Daniels' mom is a helicopter mom, right? We've seen it. I know too many people that are close to the situation that have told me, right, that she's a helicopter mom, right? And so, and when a dad does it, it's like looked at as a negative thing, but not necessarily with the mom at times, right? And I say on both sides, I say being a helicopter mom, dad, whatever, might not be the best thing at times, because again, then your child identity might be strictly stuck on this sport, or they can't make decisions for themselves because they're used to, okay, I have to make sure my mom or my dad approves. As a matter of fact, I'm afraid to take certain risks because at the end of the day, what will they think? And now they're not able to live their life. They're not able to maybe do certain things they want to do, right? I know it's probably hard for LeVar Ball, but Lonzo eventually kind of told his dad, "Hey, you got to chill out, right? Like, I appreciate your support. You helped me get to this point, but now let me take over. Let me do what I need to do, right?" And so, I think as fathers, we have to be okay with that too. We have to train our sons and daughters to get to that point where we help them, get to whatever they're trying to get to, and then we have to be okay with stepping back. Or when they tell us to step back, we have to be okay with that and not take it personal, and not think of it as, hold on, look what I did for you, right? Look what you mean that you want me to step away, or you want me to take a break, or whatever the case is, or not be so involved. We have to understand that, because again, we're supposed to be helping develop young men, young women, right? And so I've seen that too, where getting involved, where honestly it gets weird, right? It gets weird where it's like, okay, are you, the way that you talk about your daughter, like, are you trying to make her, are you trying to make her be the woman that you wish you had, right? Or with your son, are you trying to make your son the guy that you wish you was, because you didn't finish college, because you didn't finish, that sport, or whatever the case is? There's nothing wrong. Let me put a disclaimer. There is nothing wrong with your child accomplishing things and you being proud of them. There's nothing wrong with that, right? That is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and it should be celebrated. But when it gets to the point where it's like you're almost living through them, right, that could be a lot for them. And I don't think we think about that, right? Where it's like, dang, okay, um, is it okay? Like, what would my dad want me to do, right? Instead of, hey, you know what? I felt, if it's one of those things, you told your son, hey, you got to be with this type of woman right here. She has to look like X, Y, and Z, right? Your son might come across a woman that doesn't look what you described, but treats him wonderful. And instead of going with that girl, he chooses the girl, quote unquote, the ideal chick that you picked, and she's toxic. And then they have a kid or something like that, and he's dealing with a whole bunch of extra drama, a bunch of whole, nonsense that you didn't want for your son, but he was so busy trying to please you that he chose he chose the wrong woman, right? Just because he wanted to make sure he was going by your standard. And it could be the same with your daughters as well, right? You told your daughters, hey, you know what? You can only have I don't know, you could only have a black child, or you can only have a Hispanic child, or an Asian child, or whatever the case is. You can only be married to that, right? And they pick someone, and they're miserable. Now your daughter is miserable, but you're like, oh well, you know what? At least my grandkids are strictly Hispanic, strictly black, strictly white, whatever the case is, but they're miserable, right? Um, Again, that doesn't mean because I know some of y'all that be like, you know, super anti whatever it is, like, oh man, okay, this guy must not be a pro black or pro whatever. No, that's fine if that's what you believe in, but at the same time, what's more important, your beliefs or your child's happiness, right? Is your happiness, as long as they're not doing nothing that's you know obviously destructive, hurting the law, if there's certain, obviously we all have certain morals, we all have certain values that we held, right? But as long as they're not doing something that's literally morally, um, um, I don't know, just disrespectful or something that's disheartening, at the end of the day, we should want the best for our kids. And so that's what made me think about this whole, John Morant stuff, because with the gun stuff, I recently just saw too. He got in trouble. He got in trouble for the what was it? He got in trouble for the gun celebration. He was acting like he was shooting, whatever, right? And people were upset, like, man, that's unfair. Why did he do that? Well, because it's unfair. He got in trouble or got fined because at the end of the day he was warned. Number one, and did like a couple days later. Number two, he also was on IG Live not that long ago, right, with the actual gun, which got him in trouble, right? And then we see him doing it, and not just him doing it, but then his dad's doing it. So then it makes you think, okay, so, and then John Morant didn't seem to care about, like, hey, man, they just hating on me. Man, they out against me, right? Where he's playing the victim. Now, I don't know this, but is his dad feeding into that? Hey, man, they're just hating on you, son. Keep doing what you're doing, son. Instead of, hey, son, let's not mess up this generational wealth. Let's not mess up this opportunity. You know what? They're tripping, whatever. But you know what? Let's just play by their rules right now. It is what it is. Once we retire, if we want to be on IG Live all day with guns, let it be, right? Or, when we're at home, we want to have a party at home or whatever, cool. We just going to make sure we don't post it online, right? Just moving smarter, right? And so, it's just like I guess it's just, like I said, it's a tricky situation, because at the same time too, for me, I try my best to not, I don't want to judge anyone how they father their kids, because who am I? I'm definitely not a perfect father. Not at all. Not close to being a perfect father. And I know none of us are, right? And so that's why I said it's a tricky situation, because I can't speak on how someone's fathering. I can see from a distance, like, hey, are you sure that's really what you want? Or is that what you want, or is that what your child wants? I can see from a distance from that, but I'm not in those conversations, so I can't speak like 100% sure. Hey, Bronny wanted to stay at USC. I have no clue, right? I don't know. Maybe he did want to go back to school, but maybe it's one of those things where Brian said, "Hey, this is a good opportunity for you to go play with me. On top of that, this draft is going to be weak, so you'll have a better chance to come with me." I have no clue what that is, right? But that's why I try my best to speak life on everyone and encourage, because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna look at it as being involved as a bad parent, because there's a lot of us that didn't have parents, or didn't have fathers, I should say, right? A lot of us didn't have fathers, and so being too involved, because if you're willing to, if a father's willing to put his ego to the side, it's easier for the father to kind of step back a little bit, right? A little bit, then not be there at all, right? Serena and Venus Williams, right? Their dad was super involved, literally mapped out everything, right? But as we see, as they're adults, they're living their lives, they're doing whatever it is. But he had a vision, he had a plan for them, and they was able to execute that vision with his guidance. So even though we could say, hey, being an involved parent or too involved, quote unquote, could be a bad thing, well, for the fathers that I'm mentioning, they look at it like, no, If it wasn't for me being that involved, they wouldn't have accomplished what they accomplished, right? I think it's just that balance of understanding, hey, be super involved with your kids, but then trust the tools, trust the foundation, trust everything you taught them, that when they're in a situation, they can call you, right? They can handle certain situations. Because if not, what happens when you leave? I think about now, right now, I'm thinking about Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods, again, he was doing his scandal, whatever the case is, but not even just that. Like, you could tell Tiger Woods' life just started to spiral when his dad passed away, because he was super close to his dad. He leaned on his dad. But let's say, I don't know for sure, but let's say his dad was super involved and he didn't know how to handle certain situations on his own, right? Because his dad took care of everything. If that's the case, you saw how it impacted him, right? So why would you want your child to deal with that, where it's like, man, if I'm sick, or when God calls me home, whenever that is, right? Like, I'm no longer there to protect my son or daughter. But when I'm not there, their life is going to spiral because I didn't give them the opportunity to be able to handle different adversity. Again, you will still be there for them. They could call you, hey, you have a problem? Cool. You call me anytime. Or, hey, you know what? I'm going to get on you when you know you're doing silly stuff, right? Like, why are you, again, I'll not to pick on John Morant, but right, like, hey, son, like, come on, man, you gotta be smarter. You can't be posting on IG Live. You can do the lyrics, play the music, whatever, but man, let's be smarter. Let's not have a gun, online or whatever the case is, right? So we don't want to mess up the sponsorships. We don't want to mess up, maybe shoe deals, right? Like, think a bigger picture, instead of maybe, again, I don't know for sure. I'm not trying to say Team Morant, but just trying to live through our kids. We have to be mindful of that. When we're being involved for the right reasons, because we all want our kids to be successful, of course, but we have to make sure that we're not getting caught up in just making it about us, that we're really genuinely trying to make sure our kids are set up to be the best version of them, right? And so, yeah, man, I just wanted to, this was something that was really on my heart, because I was just thinking about it for a while now, just because, again, as fathers, like I say all the time, we set the foundation, right? We set the standard. And so how we shape our kids is going to shape how not only their relationships are with us, but how their relationships are going to be with other people, how they interact with other people, right? And so it's just so important. But it definitely, like, again, it definitely benefits our kids to have us there, right? To have us physically there, emotionally there, spiritually there with them, right? To be able to really connect with them, but just understanding the thin lines and not being that overbearing parent, not being that helicopter parent, right? And understand that, it's okay to take a little bit off. Um, and someone might be hearing this and say, hey, no, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing me. Like, no, you know what? This is how I want to do it. I'm about to be really on my daughter, really on my son, and that's how we're gonna do it. That's your decision. Again, I'm not perfect at all. I do not have all the answers, so I'll be the first one to tell you. So if that's what you feel is best for you and your family, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted us to be aware of, as fathers, though, just as something. Hey, is this something that is really beneficial to our kids, right? Or is it something, yeah, it's beneficial to our kids, but I also like what it brings. I also like the attention it brings to me. I also like, when people mention my kid, they mention how great I was. Or when they mention my kid, they're looking at me and I'm getting the props for it. Like, now it's all about me. Now it's all about, especially now in the social media world, right? We want to post everything. We want to share everything, as we should. Like, we should be proud of our kids, right? Just because, like, for example, I'm not a person that's going to post a lot like that when it comes to my family, but that's me. Doesn't mean I'm not proud of them. That's just me. I'm not a person that wants to show everything all the time, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't care. Just like, if you post something all the time, that doesn't mean that you're that overbearing parent. No, you're just proud of your kid's accomplishment, as you should be. You know, there's no bad thing about bragging about your kids. There's no bad thing about being excited about your kids. At the end of the day, too, that's only gonna instill confidence in your kids, right? That's gonna have them be like, dang, like my dad's proud of me. You know, man, I love it. Like, okay, at the end of the day, he believes in me. Okay, he knows I can do this. So I'm gonna try that much harder. Um, so yeah, man, I just wanted to share that with you guys, man. Just the as far as is it quote unquote bad for us as fathers to be involved? Um, I say all that too to say I wouldn't say it's bad to be too involved. I would just say you have to be cautious about being too involved. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys for the support. Like always, you don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. See you guys on the next one.